Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Talk. This is the show where we discuss the week in Humboldt, the local issues, and the local personalities. I'm Talvi Freed, and I'll be your local host for the next hour. I am here with Samantha Karges, Public Information Officer for the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. How are you doing today, Samantha?
I'm doing as well as you could think of for a long week after an earthquake.
Yes, and joining, right. It was a very long week. Joining us soon will also be Lauren Schmitt, KMUD's News Director. Welcome to you both. Our topic for this week is what else? The massive 6.4 earthquake that kind of ruined everybody's plans in one way or another. How substantial are the damages? How is the city of Rio Dell coping? Because I feel like for whatever reason, they got hit really hard there with the infrastructure damage and not like water lines breaking, power lines being out. Some of them are still out. What resources are available for those who are affected and still affected? And how should we rate the emergency response? Which these are all topics that we plan on getting to. Hello, Lauren. I'm glad you could join us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I wanted to start off by asking Samantha, I'm not sure how much time you can spare us today. I know you are very busy. Though what did the sheriff's office see in the last few days?
Sure. So, as like everyone else, got woken up at about 2:30 in the morning with the earthquake, and at about 3 o'clock, I went into work and got started putting out messaging. In the hours and days that have followed, we've seen a very resilient community. A community that really pulls together. The Eel River Valley definitely was hit the hardest. At first there were reports of coming in from all over the place. Our 911 lines were flooded with questions and people just asking what's going on. Is there going to be another earthquake? Those sorts of things. And then as the day progressed, we learned of several gas leaks throughout the Eel River Valley. Even up here in Eureka, there was some damages there. Eureka actually had to red tag one residence. So it definitely was pretty strong up here too. So, we've been working since then. We've mobilized our Office of Emergency Services, Emergency Operations Center, and we have staff in from over the entire county. Additionally, we have staff from Cal OES, came up from Sacramento, and they're supporting the effort for the response as well. And so over the past few days, we've been bringing in resources, particularly to the Rio Dell community, as well as Fortuna, and making sure that the residents are getting food, getting water, getting the resources they need to begin their cleanup of the disaster that happened.
What are the resources available right now?
Sure. So some of the things that are happening right now specifically are there are 40 pallets of water being brought up every single day from the Bay Area because there is that boil water notice for both communities in Fortuna and the entire city of Rio Dell. So as long as that boil water notice is coming, Cal OES is sending water so that people can drink without having to boil their tap water. Additionally, there is food being served. There's a food truck that's out there in Rio Dell donating meals. There's ready to eat meals being handed out in that area as well. Red Cross has set up a shelter at the Fortuna Firemen's Pavilion, and that's providing overnight accommodations, meals, charging, all of those sorts of things, getting people who may have been displaced because their home may have been condemned to a place where they can start to figure out housing in the meantime. Also, another thing that happened, we didn't really give a lot of publicity to it just because we were so busy with other things, but Cal OES and Verizon stepped in and provided what they call a cow and a steer Yeah, lots of jokes about that in the off times, but basically what they are is they are signal. The cow is basically a mobile cell phone tower. So it allows better cell phone coverage, because what we saw after the earthquake is a total communication wipeout for particularly Rio Del, struggling to connect to internet or cell service or anything. And then the steer is similar, but it's more powerful. It's like a satellite trailer that provides internet connectivity. So those things we're really thankful that those got sent up to help in the meantime while they were trying to fix the connectivity issues. And today they are back on Wi-Fi, back on internet service. Verizon is 100% capacity now.
I thought it was interesting that because I maintain cell service, but that's because I use Verizon. Perhaps that's exactly why, though I thought it was interesting that it tells you where your service is going through or funneling through. And so it was hitting like central Nevada, which I guess is just where they redirected the lines from Humboldt County. I thought that was just interesting.
The earthquake caused some type of fiber cable damage. And so that's why in the Rio Del area, it just Verizon completely went down. And that's why I have Verizon as well. We were kind of struggling the day of the earthquake to really get calls and things through. And that's something that we do anticipate and expect here with Office of Emergency Services. We have plans for what are we going to do if all communications goes down. And fortunately here at our courthouse, we have backup generators and things to help us be able to maintain that connectivity. But one thing that we've had to do specifically for this incident is set up what the fire service lovingly calls trap lines, which are physical message boards within the community where we print and run information down so that they can read it. So we've started doing that this week as well in order to make sure our press releases, recovery resources were posted and available to the community.
Lauren, I know you have some questions to ask Sam yourself, and then I do want to get back into the communication lines because I may have a heavy interest in them, especially emergency lines. So Lauren, what did you want to ask? Oh, you're muted.
Classic. Hey, Sam, how's it going? I was wondering if you could talk about how, OES mobilizes and what that coordination looks like, with city officials like Rio Del.
Absolutely. So things are a little bit different because, like you said, we're dealing with an incorporated city. So they have their own thing going on, right? So as a county, we're here to lend support. And when we see that a city may not have the resources they need to respond to an incident of this scale, we step in and provide those resources. So what we've been doing is we've been receiving requests from the city of Rio Del when we can because of connectivity issues, of course, and we fulfill those requests either at a county level, or if we don't have those resources, we pass that request up to the region and to the state to fulfill those needs. And that's kind of how all emergencies work. So it's just a standard practice that we do for whether it's earthquake, fire, tsunami, flood. This is what we do. And so, we immediately stepped up, activated, and we've been here assisting Rio Del and the other communities.
Going back to what Talvi was saying about communications, in the summer when there were fires in the Willow Creek area, there were Verizon issues. According to that community, they were stating that there had been issues that were had gone unmitigated by Verizon, but that emergency kind of triggered that company to step up and fix it, with pressure from OES and others. Was that an issue during this emergency in Rio Del, or was this due to that severed line?
I don't have the intimate details of what exactly went wrong, but my understanding is the severed line very much contributed to a lot of the communication issues. One thing that happened with the fire in Willow Creek as well is they also brought in that cow, that mobile cell tower, which helped provide a booster to a lot of people. But another thing you have to understand too is that, these disasters, they cause damage to cell towers, right? And that's what we're relying on for that cell service. So it's to be expected that some comms will go down. And then also you have to think, with a disaster and emergency, more people are calling, more people are texting their friends on their phones. And so the traffic it's seeing that maybe it's not used to is sky high, and it gets overloaded. So there's a lot of things to take into account when it comes to the comms sort of thing.
Absolutely.
There was also a situation where the Northwest repeater was down at the Muni, which I didn't recognize. I'm a ham radio operator, and I accidentally had it switched to I think the Northern repeater, which is Rio Del, or I sometimes forget the name. So I was talking to people in Rio Del, being like, "Are you okay?" That, just trying to assess damages and everything, and be like, is everybody okay? Pretty much. But I was curious because the repeater, the Northwest repeater, was down at the Muni, but there was still electricity and power. And I'm just wondering how that works, because the Muni was opened up as an emergency response kind of spot for people to go to charge their medical equipment or anything they need charging.
Unfortunately, I am not the right person for that question. It's way too technical for me. I can pass it along to Greg Waters. He oversees our ham radio response and things like that. He might know a bit more, but I don't know much about the repeaters that went down and whatnot. I can tell you, though, that we have our auxiliary communications team, which is made up of ham radio operators, and they were active during this response. And our CERT members were calling in reports of damages throughout the community. So, that was another thing where, I talked about, we expect these communications to go down. So we have to have alternate things that we can do. And ham radio has been tried and true for emergencies. So it was definitely nice to be able to have those ham radio operators working for this event and just really seeing how that team can aid in a situation like this.
Absolutely. Samantha, I'm wondering, can you talk about things that we learned during this earthquake? What worked, what didn't, and how can we use this kind of as a training for something that could be even more devastating in the future?
Sure. Like always, communication can always be improved. I think we learned a lot about just the capacity that we have and what's going to happen if the big one does hit and truly knock out all comms, everything for everybody. So that's, a really big one. And just, I think training with all of our cities and just making sure that we all know how to work and mesh together for when something like this happens. I will say that from my perspective, I think this has been a really good response, at least from the county side of things. I was saying earlier, we have had the current team here has been in place for about 4 or 5 years. And so we have dealt with several fires and incidents to have this practice, this experience under our belt. So I feel like this response, especially for the county, we're a well-oiled machine at this point because we know what we're doing. We have several credentialed members through the state, or several people who have state credentials for emergency response. So we know how to do it and we're doing it. And, it's great practice too, for when the big one happens. But, there definitely will be lessons learned. I think it's a little bit too early to talk about that. But as always, with any incident, we do an after action review and talk exactly about this. What went well, what didn't, what needs to be improved on. So I'm sure there'll be several areas. I personally would have liked to get those trap lines up and going a little bit sooner. But, in the first 24 to 48 hours of an incident, it's a bit chaotic. So that's my goal for, if this happens again, which it will, something will happen again, to get those trap lines established even sooner.
For a common citizen, because I know there's a lot of people who are emergency trained and have all that either experience or they have kind of a network, but for somebody who's listening to this and has either they're new to the area, they've never faced an earthquake, or they just kind of got comfortable not dealing with one, what do you recommend within that first 24 hours a household or a apartment community or just any individual does during the first 24 hours after the emergency?
Absolutely. So the first thing I would say is make sure that your family is safe. Um, During an earthquake, we got several reports of injuries. I mean, we've had, I believe it's up to at least 17 injuries, and a lot of them were minor injuries where people tried to get up and move during the earthquake. They were in bed, they saw the shaking, got up to go to go check on a family member, injured themselves by a fall. Lots of fall victims that we've seen. So stay put where you are if an earthquake occurs. Drop, cover, hold on. If you're in bed, stay in bed, hunker down, wait for the shaking to stop. I've said earlier this week, I think we were very fortunate that this earthquake occurred at 2:30 in the morning because a lot of people were in bed, and that's a pretty safe place to be. Instead of being in the middle of a store where things might be falling or things falling on top of you. So I know you asked about what to do the first 24 to 40 hours, but before that is even more important. What you should be doing now is preparing, making sure your furniture has the earthquake straps. Make sure they're attached to the wall. So when things do start shaking, you don't have furniture collapsing on you. Making sure you know how to drop, cover, and hold on. Having your family preparedness plan, your emergency response plan. So where are you going to go if your home gets damaged? Do you have a plan to stay with somebody else? Who are you going to contact to check in to make sure that you're safe? All of those different things. And we have a preparedness portal on our website, humboldtsheriff.org. You can go there, go to our OES website, and you can learn more about that, as well as ready.gov has lots of preparedness resources. So I definitely recommend that first. Now, after the earthquake, after you drop, covered, and held on, you're safe, your family's safe, you checked on your family. The next thing you want to do is check your home for damages. If your home, like some of the homes in Rio Dell, completely went off of their foundation. So determine, is your home safe to be in at this very moment? If it's not, get out of your house. Find a safe place. In your emergency plan for your family, you should have a meeting spot for your family members in the event of a serious emergency. Where is your family going to gather to meet up if you don't have communication, if you can't call them or text them? How can you make sure that they're okay? So that's one of the things. If your home isn't damaged or destroyed, but you do have things on the ground, some minor damage, that it's still safe to be in there. Before you clean up, take pictures of everything. And I know if you're friends with anybody that lives in Humboldt County, I'm sure you've seen everybody's pictures from their houses, because people, it's an earthquake, people like to share that. And I'm not saying take pictures because of that, but for insurance purposes, if you do happen to have earthquake insurance or a homeowner's insurance that covers these types of things, make sure you're taking those pictures. Check for natural gas leaks. You'll know from the smell. So if you smell the smell of gas, turn off your gas, leave your house. It's not safe to be in there. And then, stand by for emergency alerts with further instructions.
So I'm hoping that you can stay for just a few more questions after this quick break. We'll be right back with Thursday Night Talk. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Talvi, and this is Thursday Night Talk. Tune into KZZA if you're listening to our YouTube channel, and I appreciate that and appreciate you and hope that you're doing well after the earthquakes, which is what we're discussing. It's the 12:20 earthquake, the big quake of 2022, as it will be forever known, because it was pretty big. It was a big, rolly, wavy one. It wasn't a shaker. It felt like being on a boat in choppy waters, which was an interesting feel. We can get into tectonic plate dynamics later in the show, but if you have any experiences that you want to relate, or if you suffered substantial damages, or if you just have any thoughts, we will be taking your Zoom calls. You can call us 669-900-6833. Again, that's 669-900-6833. You're going to need the meeting ID number to join. The meeting ID number is 511-886-8501. That's 511-886-8501. I am here with Samantha Karges and Lauren Schmitt. And I wanted to go back to the first 24 hours after a disaster that I wanted to ask, because again, I'm a ham radio operator. So I kind of had help with, I am seeing, I did my walk around my neighborhood and everything. And, there was a big water line breaking, and then somebody's like, oh, my roof is, or the ceiling's coming in. And I was on the Northwest repeater out here, and somebody from, I believe, Rio Del was like, that is definitely something to call 911 about. And I was like, okay, because I didn't want to overload the line. So I do have the question is, after an emergency, what are reasons to call? What level? Because I know a lot of people they get scared about something. Do you call for gas leaks? Do you call for water line breaks? Do you call for down power lines? What do you call for?
Yeah, so if you are in an immediate emergency, so your life safety is in jeopardy, call 911. If there's a down power line, yes, call 911. If there is a gas leak, we recommend you contact PG&E specifically to report that gas leak and to turn off your gas line if you can. PG&E's number is 1-800-743-5000. That's who can address the gas leaks. Now, if say you are traveling to check on a friend and there's a giant hole in the road from that earthquake, yes, call 911 about that. But that's really the case there. If you have major damages to your home, just your ceiling maybe showing signs of being damaged isn't necessarily a reason to call 911. But if your ceiling is collapsing and you're going to be trapped inside and can't get out and can't get help, that's a reason to call 911.
Okay. Lauren, I know you've been experiencing, because you're in Southern Humboldt, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So, which is, I feel like it's a different beast, kind of like the differences between what you get in Eureka versus what is able to be had in Rio Del.
Technically, Rio Del is considered Southern Humboldt. Anything south of the 36, where, the folks in Garberville and the folks in Rio Del might feel a little differently about that. But
right, I thought the rule was everything south of Rio Del. But
no, I think, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the county defines SoHum as anything south of Highway 36.
I've been dancing around that definition all week, so I'm not going to weigh in.
Okay, fair.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting because the damages here in the South County, right? We are fairly unscathed. The stores, of course, had some things knocked off, but all things considered, we were pretty unscathed compared to last year's earthquake, right? On the same day, right? Deja vu. We were actually hit a little harder during that earthquake, which had a smaller magnitude. But I spoke with Lori Dangler, the emeritus professor of geology at Cal Poly earlier today, and she was kind of saying the magnitude doesn't necessarily speak to the violence and the shaking of the earthquake. And we hear a lot of people comparing the 1992 earthquake to this, where it was, I believe, a larger magnitude, but folks believe that this one was a little more violent. So Lori kind of touches on that. And that's on the KMUD News Facebook page if folks want to kind of dive in there. Living on the Mendocino Triple Junction, Humboldt County is the most seismically active region in the entire contiguous United States, living on shaky ground. if earthquakes, they're going to continue to happen. And I know a lot of people have a lot of PTSD right now. I mean, there's been over 100 aftershocks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, that's going to stop for a while. No, they're going to continue, and indefinitely. Right. So as Samantha was saying, it's best to be prepared, equip yourself with knowledge. The more you know, I feel like the less anxious you'll be. At least that's how I feel, right? I get to serve as the news director here at KMUD. I'm constantly talking to Lori Dangler, again, our local earthquake expert. Of course, she'd live here in the most seismically active region. But the more she shares information and educates us, the less anxious I am during an earthquake. As Samantha said, the most injuries we saw were people running out of bed, which science and data shows that running is actually the most dangerous thing you can do in an earthquake. People were saying, I was trying to run outside. Well, look at Rio Del. Where is that damage? There's, the bricks on chimneys were kind of collapsing. So if you're outside, no, that's not good, right? And the two most common earthquake deaths we see in California are from people running, and unfortunately, heart attacks. As Lori Dangler said, people literally are scared to death. And again, so the more you know, the more you equip yourself with knowledge on what to do, the safer you'll be, the more calm you'll be. The golden rule of earthquakes is drop, cover, and hold on. But as Lori Dangler said, has told us many times, sometimes just doing absolutely nothing is the best thing to do, right? If you're in bed, just, clench your pillow and breathe, count it out. That's the best thing you can do.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
And, one of the big things that I think has saved my skin is, looking up the Redwood Coast Working Tsunami Group. They have so much local information, and one of the biggest tips they give to folks, especially here in Humboldt County, we love our potted plants. We love our house plants. Remove your house plants from above your bed, or from, I used to have a bunch of plants here. No, they're gone, because you don't want overhead things to fall on you. But again, doing absolutely nothing, depending on the circumstance, is probably your best bet. Or, just kind of doing this, protecting your head, or dropping quickly, under your desk. And again, just stay calm, count it out, and know that OES and other ham operators and KMUD, we're going to have your back to get you information as fast as possible.
I'd like to touch on that really quick, because we are trying to get that information out as soon as possible, but also understand that these are all humans with families as well. So we've been instructed to check on our family, make sure they're safe first, and then we start to work. So there is going to be a delay. And that's why Lori always says, if there's a tsunami, you're probably not going to get a warning. If it's a local source tsunami, there won't be enough time, because it can come within 10 minutes. And by the time I can log in to the platform to send an emergency alert, it's going to be too late for that sort of situation. So that's why we really harp on be prepared, know what to do, get yourself to a safe place, then wait for the alert. Don't wait for the alert to act, because it's going to be too late. We do our very, very best, but we are all humans, right? And so we get the alerts as soon as we can.
Sam, with that, I have a question about the Humboldt alert. We did receive some feedback. I believe the earthquake took place just after 2:30. We got our Humboldt alert around 5:30. And again, if I'm CERT trained, and the first rule is before you go out and help others, you got to make sure you're okay. Same with, Rio Del Fire, Rio Del Police. They had to make sure that their personal unit was okay before they could go assist others. Because if you're stressed out, it just makes sense. But as far as if Humboldt alert were to happen, is there a chance in the future it could be automated, right? Whereas the USGS, they'll have information fairly immediately, right? As quick as absolutely possible. Is there a way that somehow, I'm sure on Lost Coast Outposts, you've seen the CHP bot, the Humboldt Sheriff Call for Service bot, is there a kind of preliminary way that system could be slightly automated. So if the USGS says, hey, there's a tsunami, or hey, this is just, this was a magnitude earthquake here. Is that something that's could be done in the future and that's being discussed?
I haven't heard any discussions around it, and I'm not sure that the platform we use would be capable of that sort of thing. I love the idea of a tsunami alert that comes from USGS being automated. Think about how many earthquakes we have and notification fatigue, right? So we want to make sure the notifications are being used appropriately and not just scaring people when there's not a real reason to use them. I will say that we did put out, we do our breaking news on the sheriff's office Twitter and OES's Twitter, and we did put out a tweet at 3:12 a.m., the fastest we could. The other thing about that, though, Lauren, is the communication issue, right? So I'm the one who sends out those tweets. I could not, for the life of me, get my internet to work. I could not get internet until about 3:05. And then I was able to actually see what the magnitude earthquake was and if a tsunami was expected, because I literally did not have connectivity. So there's other factors involved, but I love the automated thing that you're suggesting. And I do wonder if there is a way to do that, especially now as technology continues to evolve. So it's definitely something that we can have discussions about in the future.
Well, I just have to give you so many kudos, Samantha. You are like an emergency information rock star. We've worked together, on the Million Acre wildfire and earthquakes, and you've just been great. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you. We're doing the best we can, I do assure you. And every time I hear someone say, oh, we didn't get this, I'm like, no, we're doing the best we can. But, of course, there's always an issue with communication. So we're learning as we go and we improve every time.
I feel like I got the emergency message, drop and cover, you're experiencing an earthquake nearly instantly, though, while the earthquake was still happening.
So that was the state earthquake system, and it worked wonderfully. Actually, I woke up to that noise. I'm not even necessarily sure I woke up to the shaking. I woke up to the noise, and it was wonderful I've learned that when I hear that noise, it means an earthquake. So I think that state system, early alert system, is great, and it worked really well.
I wish it had worked 5 minutes earlier, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way to predict.
Yeah, no, I know. A magic ball for all future calamities would be great. Even by 5 minutes, it's amazing what can be accomplished in just 5 minutes and what units can be placed.
Well, that's another thing too. We talked about calling 911. That's a reason not to call 911. We got a lot of calls of, is another earthquake going to happen? Is this going to happen? And just, our dispatchers, they experienced it just like you did. And at that moment in time, immediately after, they have no more information than the community. So we can't tell you if another earthquake is going to happen. We can't tell you any of that stuff because we don't know either.
Well, and Lauren had brought up the triple junction that is southern Humboldt, northern Mendocino counties. And I think a lot of people aren't aware of, let's get into tectonic plates. What is an earthquake? Why did it happen? It's perhaps, Lauren, you talk to the earthquake expert a lot more than I do. I just think it's cool information, but it's also helpful to know, and I think it might take away some of the fear of not knowing what it is, and it will help reason with, well, why can't you predict it?
Right. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a geologist. So some of those specifics I'll leave to Lori Dangler, who I believe stated she's willing to join you next Thursday night talk. But what I do know is the Mendocino Triple Junction is kind of near the Petrolia area, though. So that Mendocino name is a little misleading. So it's kind of they all link in between Shelter Cove and Petrolia, which you might want to fact check this, but I think Petrolia specifically is one of those areas that's always moving. And that community is kind of like a vortex. I always, going out there, it adds to the magical element of Petrolia for sure. But there's earthquakes all the time. Some are just so small you don't notice. I know here in the newsroom we don't report on them unless they're in the higher 3s to 4, right? And so the 6.4 was significant. And again, same day last year was similar. And those are the two I've received, those my shake alerts, which I wish they'd change that noise. That will absolutely add to the stress of the earthquake, is for sure. But yeah, the Mendocino Triple Junction, years and years and years ago, we're talking thousands of years ago, was actually on the outside of LA, the coast of LA. And so it's just, the earth is constantly moving, right? That's why we have such a beautiful landscape, pressure, things pushing and coming up. And I know one of the common misconceptions we hear or people ask is, are these little earthquakes preventing, giving relief for some big one that's coming? We all hear about the Cascadia subduction zone. And I'm sorry to report the answer is no. Which is why we should all be prepared. And I know Sam and what she was saying and things we've discussed before is, when we have a localized tsunami, this isn't a tsunami that's coming from Japan or coming from other places, right? Or, up towards Alaska. A localized tsunami is going to, have serious impacts in almost seconds and minutes. So there's another kind of golden rule when it comes to earthquakes, especially for folks in tsunami zones. We're thinking of Samoa area and portions of Shelter Cove and, people at the beach. Whereas, if the ground starts to shake, know your zone. And if the ground starts to shake, get to higher ground. I know in Shelter Cove, folks, when you need to evacuate for a tsunami, that's actually just at the Shelter Cove airstrip, which, it isn't as high up as you would think that you needed to go. Obviously, continue higher up if you want. But, when you go to the beach or where you live, know your zone and know where that tsunami zone is, know where it isn't so you can get to it. And there was an amazing effort by the state and other local emergency officials. We have signs. There used to not be signs, and now it is extremely well documented, and there's tsunami sirens. Sam, maybe you could comment on, like you were saying, emergency officials, we might not be able to get that text alert out. Will those tsunami sirens work in that event, or, will there be enough time?
The tsunami sirens are unreliable technology. They are very dated, back to, I think, the 50s or whatnot. And so about half of them actually work. The county has gone back and forth. We've discussed this, whether or not to replace them, to maintain them. And there's no fund. There's no funding in order to continue the maintenance. And the maintenance is very expensive. So, I think we talk about it every single year because we test them every year to see. So about half work. And what they're actually really good for is people who are on the beach or in the immediate vicinity. If you're in your house, you probably won't hear them because they're just not loud enough. Now, it depends where you are. So all of that being said, our dispatch center can activate them. So theoretically, they could be activated for a distance source tsunami, but don't count on it, would be, the most transparent answer. You really have to count on knowing what to do. And that is count it out, stay safe, drop where you are, go to somewhere safe.
Okay. I know both of you actually have to go sort of soon. So let's start our round robin after a quick break, if you don't mind, and then we can get some final thoughts from both of you, and then, or I guess go ahead. All right, my production is saying that if we want to do the round robin now, let's do the round robin. I think both of you are very busy and have to get going on things. If you want to give a message out to anybody, you each have a couple minutes just to let people know any more important information that you think you want to instill, or just thoughts in general.
Sure. I'll go first. The biggest thing that I'm trying to tell people is that we do have an established page on our website HumboldtSheriff.org/emergency. And that's where we're keeping the most current information. And I know that sometimes there's trouble accessing the website, but that is where we have it. And if communications go down, we're printing it. So that's my best advice for information. If you feel like you're not getting enough, subscribe to our news alerts, HumboldtSheriff.org/subscribe. And that's my plug.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Samantha. And Lauren. Oh, you're muted again.
You know, how long have we been Zooming, right? Yeah, I just want to thank Sam. Samantha really is such an integral part of the emergency command structure in our county, and you need a little more credit in your life, so thank you so much, Samantha. And I also want to just give a plug for the Rio Dell Volunteer Fire Department. Folks, if you're in the Eureka area and you're listening to this, it's never been a better time to donate to Rio Dell Volunteer Fire, any fire department, really. There is a Venmo that has been established and a GoFundMe page. We did share that to the KMUD News Facebook page. So definitely support those folks. You know, Humboldt Sheriff's Office and OES does not accept donations. So if you're trying to figure out how to help, donating to Rio Dell Volunteer Fire or Pay It Forward Humboldt is a great place to go. And of course, KMUD, KZZH, we're all community media partners. And during emergencies, you know, KMUD, that's why we're here. We've coordinated with the Sheriff's Office years, and county, OES, all the key players in any emergency to bring you that live updated information. You know, radio might seem a little old school. I always joke, you don't need radio until you need radio. So folks, I encourage you to get a radio, get batteries, and keep it tuned to your local media partners who are going to make sure you're safe during anything that comes our way here on the North Coast. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And my production team is saying that you deserve a medal for a towering job that you also did during this this emergency. It's not always easy for media to have to be on air all the time to gather all the information and spread the word. So you are very, very appreciated. And we'll be back from the break, though I know you two have to run off, but thank you again so much for being on the show. And we'll be right back with Thursday Night Talk.
I hope you have a wonderful holiday and a great new year. Hopefully we'll see you.
Happy holidays from Savage Henry.
Happy holidays from Savage Henry Comedy Club. And may all of your wildest dreams come true.
Happy holidays from Savage Henry Comedy Club. Thank you, Humboldt County, for supporting live comedy.
Come to Savage Henry Comedy Club, even if you don't like stand-up comedy, because we'll probably like it.
Well, in spite of the recent disaster, the Christmas holiday is still looming. It's also Happy Hanukkah to everyone out there. If you are wondering, there are several holiday events happening around the county. Thank you to those at Savage Henry. I asked the community, because I wanted this to be entirely a holiday themed show, because I love the holidays. But man, did that earthquake kind of change everybody's plans. So instead of that, I do have a few clips from members of the community, and we even have a Christmas song that we'll get to. But I do want to share what is going on in Humboldt County, because it's the holidays. If you are looking for absolutely anything to do, hopefully you're seeing this before these events happen. We're only 3 days away, from Christmas and in the middle of Hanukkah already. Yesterday was the solstice. So happy everything to everyone. So coming up Friday, December 23rd, the final event in Arcata's Season of Wonder and Light is happening on the Arcata Plaza. You can check out the special last minute shopping party from 6 to 8 p.m. with music and a snow party with Shoshana, the Snowflake Queen, which if you have not met the Snowflake Queen, you're in for an absolute treat. Make sure to bring a twirling dress if that's your thing, and get ready to twirl in the snow. The McKinleyville Family Resource Center's food pantry is open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. until December 23rd before the holiday. And there will be an open day on Saturday, December 24th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Another pop-up holiday market is happening. The Solstice Pop-Up Holiday Market is a curated market of local makers and artisans from afar and is located at the Clark Museum at 240 East Street in Eureka. Stop in on December 24th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. to pick up some last-minute gift items, which December 24th is Christmas Eve. Make sure to make some snacks too. You gotta have at least some sweets, whether they be fried or baked, or no bake is even easier. Which I was on a forum, as I do, and I follow foodie forums. The easiest holiday kind of no bake cookie: 1 cup peanut butter, 1 cup butterscotch, melt it, mix it together, and then pour it over those like chow mein noodles that are like the dried ones, and like mix it with some marshmallows. Then just like shove it with a spoon on a plate and put it in the fridge for like 20 minutes, and you've got like the most amazing cookies. So there you go. Now you're going to be prepared. It's a simple, frugal dish that you can easily bring to those cookie exchange parties, or just eat them all yourself on Christmas. It's you boo. So St. Vincent de Paul is distributing a Christmas dinner and gifts on December 25th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. They are located at 35 West 3rd Street in Eureka. Their phone number is 707-445-9588. Again, their phone number is 707-445-9588. And the meal is open to all people and families. No proof of needing to eat is necessary to show up with a hungry belly or even a semi-full belly and grab some food and gifts. River Life Foundation is holding a community Christmas dinner from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Fortuna Veterans Hall Memorial Building, 1426 Main Street. There will be curbside and delivery available as well in Fortuna. Volunteers are still needed. So call if you want to volunteer or want more information, call 707-296-0415. Again, that's 707-296-0415. The Garberville Veterans Association would like to invite community members to attend their free annual Christmas Day meal hosted at the Mateel Community Center Sunday, December 25th. Food will be served at noon. They are also looking for volunteers and donations. Call up Amy McClellan at 707-223-3063. Again, that's 707-223-3063, or Tom Piatilia at 707-499-3931, 707-499-3931. Also, Christmas Day, there's going to be a Christmas Day walk starting at 10 a.m. at the Arcata Marsh and Wildlife Sanctuary, just south of I Street. Join leaders Paul Johnson and Ken Burton and the Friends of the Arcata Marsh for a 90-minute rain or shine leg stretcher. Meet in front of the Arcata Marsh Interpretive Center on South G Street. You can call 707-826-2359 to find out more. And then, of course, last but not least, where I'll probably be hanging out with my friends from Old Town Community Alliance. They're hosting a luncheon around noon at the Coast Guard Plaza in Old Town on Christmas Eve. They're going to be including a winter wear free shop. So if you're looking for a coat and a delicious meal, just head on over. I believe everything's kind of opening up to whoever wants to grab some snacks and whatever else around noon. If you do want to come volunteer and help set up, show up around 10. I suppose that there are other services available too. That one is on Christmas Eve. Now, of course, we do have a holiday message coming in from Charlie Beck.
'Twas the bat before Xmas, and all through the dive, not a cat was swinging, and that ain't no jive. Our gig bags were hung on the heater with care, just hoping an au fait gate would soon be there. The kiddies were out for the count in their dreamers, while Goof to Wig City on their way out redeemers. And the old lady in her bed threads and I in my sky piece, laying on the lily whites and pillows of bed fleece. When out in the alley there arose such a ruckus, I nixed out of dreamland to see what the muck is. I opened the window, got ready to shout. What jive are you spouting? What's it about? The moon, it was honking like a big yellow cab, turning black and bright and nixed out the drab. Then, what do my wigged out peepers should latch on to but a red crazy ride with 8 ponies in line too? With a crazy old Joe, so mellow and dicty, signifying to all, this must be Saint Nicky, moving so quick like joint that is jumping, sounding off their names. Now wasn't that something? Now Coltrane, now Parker, now Mingus and Monk, on Dizzy, on Davis, on, now bring on the funk. To the top of the domey, to the top of the pad, now beat it on out of here and don't ig me, Dad. They soon went to flying, that's no off-timey jive. With much trickeration that band came alive. Halfway to Harlem, those hip cats did flew, with a ride full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then with a clam bake, they knocked me my lobes, and up to the roof, the wig au fait did rode. I laid down some iron, and pulled back my conch. Down the chimney that cat came with a bonk. He was dressed all in fur, and dressed to the nines, and his dry goods were covered with ashes and grime. A bundle of goodies were stashed in his grip, and with his threads made of red made him look pretty hip. His glims, how they knocked, his face like a brie, his cogs were so sharp, his honker a mez cherry, his crumb crushers white, and so was his beard, and frisking his whiskers, he didn't seem weird. Like Sir Walter Raleigh, he was smoking a pipe. He laughed, and he nodded and asked for a light. It wasn't too thin, you could say he was fat. And laughing and jiving, he was one happy cat. He was a barrel house gate, a right ready Freddy. And I bust my gut laughing at this zoot-suited teddy. A blink of his glim and some real hard spiel. It was easy to see this cat was for real. Without any blab, he got into the groove, filling the gig bags with lots of fews and twos, and laying a digit aside of his beak and giving an ow, he shot up like a streak. He hopped in ride his sleigh and counted to 4, and soon they were Splitsville. I mean, out of the door. But I knocked him my lobes as he shot through the sky. Merry Xmas to all. Later, Jack. Goodbye.
That was wonderful. Again, that was Charlie Beck reading "'Twas the Bat Before Christmas." And that was wonderful. If you want to see any of the videos that go along with some of the sound that you're hearing, be sure to keep an eye out on, of course, Access Humboldt, though on the Access Humboldt YouTube channel as well. Give that a like and a follow. I want to again thank Samantha Karges, the Public Information Officer for the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, for being here to answer questions regarding all the emergency services and the whole situation involving that, 6.4 earthquake that we all dealt with. That kind of is the reason that this isn't a complete holiday show. I also want to thank Lauren Schmitt, the KMUD news director, who has worked pretty tirelessly since the earthquake to make sure that everybody has been able to have information and know where to go in case they needed any help at all. we will, well, we're not going to be back next week with the Thursday Night Talk, but sometime soon. Everybody needs a break sometimes, and I hope that you get one and that it's happy and that you get to be surrounded by loved ones, whether they be blood related or a cat. Cats are family too, for sure. So thank you again so much. This show replays Friday evening at 8 p.m. right here on KZZH 96.7. And again, you can watch the show on Access Humboldt's YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. Please have a rock and roll Christmas. We got a local musician who you're gonna want to hear this for sure. Happy holidays to everybody. Ho, ho, ho.
December 23rd, and down in Santa's workshop, we're waiting for the word. We love to rock and roll it, we love to make that noise. We're bringing something special for all the girls and boys. Christmas, baby, and when I feel this way, my guitar starts to jingle like the bells on Santa's sleigh. Now rocking out the North Pole and the rolling Christmas day, Mrs. Claus and Blitzen are doing the latest dance craze. Elsa playing guitar, Rudolph's on the drum. Santa's on the keyboard, he really makes them hum.
Toy soldier on the sax, I'm his biggest fan.
But Frosty on harmonica is more than I can stand. Rockin' on Christmas, baby, and when I feel this way, my guitar starts to jingle like the bells on Santa's sleigh. Took our show on the road, and if you need some proof, when you hear that rocking sound, it's Santa on the roof. Now it was just about midnight on December 23rd. We're down in Santa's workshop and we're waiting for the word. It's a rockin' on Christmas, baby, and when I feel this way, my guitar starts to jingle like the bells on Santa's sleigh. So rockin' on Christmas, baby, and when I feel this way, my guitar